I once purchased a property where a woman had lived there for 20 years and was paying $300 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment that had a current market rate of $600. Your first thought may be, how does that happen? A second thought might be, well, if I didn't have any turnover in 20 years, I'd keep rents the same too. Where do you draw the line? How do you keep tenants in place but still increase rents? After all, your expenses, they are increasing. Your property taxes, water rates, labor for landscaping are all things that can gradually increase. The cost of living increases with inflation. Did you know the current rate of inflation in the US is 2.6%? In 2020, it was 1.4%. You don't want your cash flow to decrease each year as expenses rise and rent stays the same. I am Ashley Kehr, host of the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Rookie podcast. Fresh out of college, I worked at a CPA firm. I lasted about 6 months before I quit and started working part-time as a property manager. I knew nothing and ended up building my own property management company from the ground up. You guys, when I say I started at this place, the keys were thrown into a desk drawer and there was a handwritten checklist to mark if someone paid their rent. The leases were 1 page long and extremely brief. As I took on more and more properties, I also grew the documents and processes in place. Today, I'm going to share with you one of the techniques I used when it came to raising the rents on tenants. Asking for more money can be so uncomfortable, let alone more money. And nobody wants a vacancy from the rent increasing. Before we get into some strategies and techniques for how to approach raising the rent, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're going to be putting out a weekly video tailored to rookies. The first piece of advice I can give you is to be clear and upfront with your tenants how lease renewals are handled. This is something you can even add into your lease agreement or as an additional attachment, letting them know their options if they do decide to renew once the lease is up. To make increasing the rent as painless as possible, let them know there's a rent increase every year. A good percentage is 2 to 5%. Any higher than that, and it tends to be large enough that tenants start to look elsewhere. Your goal is to reduce turnover, but also keep up with market rent. For example, you can let residents know before signing their lease there is a 3% increase every year at renewal. That way, it isn't a huge surprise. Depending on your market, that rent increase could mean less than $50 a month. This sounds great, and as a new landlord, you'll do that, but what if you are inheriting tenants? They have never had the rent increase. Now, you are the bad guy. Here's what I like to do for that. Search market rents. What are the rents for properties in your area? Look for units that are similar in size. You can do this by browsing for rent listings online, calling local property managers to see what they have in your area and what it rents for. You can attend local real estate meetups and ask other investors. Also, check the local newspaper too. If there are complexes in your area, it is easy to see online what those units rent for, or just call the office. For smaller properties, it will take a little more digging to find recently rented units that are no longer online. You will want to have the address, unit size, and rent amount for those comparables. Once you have collected 2 to 4 of them, you are going to start your rental increase letter to the tenant. In this letter, you will address the tenant that you have included their lease renewal, and it does include an increase. You will state that you are increasing their rent to meet market rents, and here are some comparable properties in the area that charge the same or higher rate. Close out the letter to let them know they can contact you with questions or concerns. I've never had a resident call with questions or concerns. Each one signed the lease and sent it back. If your tenants want to avoid a rent increase, offer a 2-year lease to them. If they sign the 2-year lease, you will keep the rent the same and they won't have an increase for 2 years. This is something else you could implement in your business. Offer a 1-year lease or a 2-year lease at each renewal. I think it is important to stay consistent. Figure out what is important to you for your business and set the standards so that it's set for each tenant. You will want to be careful of fair housing laws. As a landlord, it is your responsibility to know them and abide by them. When sending a lease renewal, make sure you know your state laws as to when you have to give notice for a lease renewal or non-renewal. If the tenant is not renewing their lease at your increase, then you are probably expecting them to move out. Some states require a specified period of time depending on how long the tenant has lived at the property to let them know you won't be renewing their lease. You would exercise this option after they reject the rent increase. It is best to communicate with your tenants through a traceable paper trail. My preferred method is email and additionally certified mail for documents like this. If you need help learning and understanding these laws, contact your local housing authority in your market. In Buffalo, New York, homeny.org offers free virtual classes to landlords. The Section 8 provider in your area may also offer free or low-cost classes. In Buffalo, New York, this is Belmont Housing, and you can find them at belmonthousingwny.org. One last tip for having a seamless transition when increasing rent is to make your tenants want to stay. Be a landlord that is respectful of the tenant, and they want to stay in your property because you care for the property and abide by the lease. A tenant will more likely pay an increase if they like the property and the landlord. You are a business that is in real estate to make money, but there are a ton of businesses that make money and provide great customer service. I highly recommend reading this book, Hug Your Haters by Jay Baer. It is sales-based, but I found it very beneficial as a property manager to stop myself from ripping my hair out at times. I still cried a lot, I won't deny that. Before we close out, let me know in the comments what you want to learn next on being a landlord. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you also check out Tony Robinson's video on our channel where he talks about 4 things you need to do before you start investing in real estate. Join the Real Estate Rookie Facebook group to connect with like-minded individuals. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Wealth from Rentals. Thank you guys for watching.